He's a senior writer at The Athletic, originator of the QB tiers, the quarterback tiers. We're excited to talk to him. Mike Sando. Mike, how are you?
Hey, good to be back. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yes.
Great to have you. Perfect time. Yeah. So let's get right to it. Dak Prescott, of course, gets the huge contract. Some are saying is the best in NFL history. He was ranked 12th, I believe, last year. That's tier 2. I've always said, or I've said like this past year, that he's en route. Rob Parker kills me for it, but I've said he's en route to being elite, to becoming elite. Do you think Dak has that in him, that he'll become an elite quarterback? And really, what do people around the league think? Do they think that?
Yeah, I think he'll be more on the fringes of that. He was 12. I thought it was too low last year. I mean, Carson Wentz was 10th, and I just thought he should have been higher than Carson Wentz, and obviously he's going to be going into this next year. So yesterday I was actually on the phone with somebody from a team, and we were trying to count, okay, how many guys could you put ahead of Dak, Could you justifiably, could you really make the case? And I think we came up with maybe 7, something like that. If you're moving Josh Allen up past him, would you move Josh Allen up past him? Some would, not everybody would.
I would at this point.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I think he's good. The question that I have really isn't much to do with him. It's more of the team. It's like, you're sort of damned if you do and damned if you don't, because they couldn't win when he was on his rookie deal. I mean, they won, but They couldn't, get to the Super Bowl or put together a great team. And so my feel is like, okay, now it's even harder when you're paying at the very top of the market. You're really paying him as if he's a top 5 guy, but is he more like maybe he is a top 5, but maybe he's a top 8. Is that now you've got to really, smaller margin for error in the building the rest of your team, which I don't know that. I mean, Jerry Jones has drafted pretty well lately, but I'm a little anti-Cowboy, not anti-Dak at all. I just feel like it's not a great setup overall from ownership, coaching, stuff that really doesn't have as much to do with Dak, but will affect Dak.
What about we talked about this earlier in the show, and when Dak got hurt last year, if you remember, Tony Dungy got criticism because he said on the air that it might be a blessing in disguise because the Cowboys can get back to running the football and doing what when they were winning at a higher clip rather than having Dak throw the ball. Does that make sense? Yeah. Do you hear that or not?
Yeah. I mean, I think that people would like them to be more balanced, but their defense was so bad that I'm not sure what else they could do. All due respect to Tony Dungy.
I get that right last year, but I think he meant they were a better team when he was a game manager and Ezekiel Elliott was running the football more. Did you?
Yeah,
no?
I understand where he's coming from, and I think there's a balance on that. I know what all of the analytics and the numbers say, and passing's more efficient and all that, but I think it got harder. Like, look at Russell Wilson, great quarterback, but they really went towards the pass. I think people play it differently when you become a passing team. I think there's a fine line there, and it takes good scheming. Like some of these Kyle Shanahan-type systems know how to do it, where they can get you to play the run. I think if you can make the defense play the run, you can pass the ball a lot easier. And so I think that may be what Coach Dungy's getting at is like, hey, let's not just be caution to the wind throwing the ball where that's all they're worried about. Make them worry about something else, and then Dak will be that much more efficient. I believe that for all quarterbacks. And look, Aaron Rodgers is doing that. As great as he is, he can throw it all over the yard. They've taken the ball out of his hands some. And I think it's made it easier for him. He was never on the injury report the whole year. He had numbers as good as ever because it's a lot easier game to play when you're play actioning and that type of stuff.
Mike Sando of The Athletic joining the Odd Couple. Mike, you alluded to it earlier with, the Cowboys couldn't win with Dak on his rookie deal. How in the world are they going to win a Super Bowl with him making all this money? We've seen that quarterback, what is it, the highest I think a quarterback's ever had as far as percentage of the salary cap was like 13%, 14%.
It's been higher than that. Yeah.
It's been high. Okay.
It's been higher than that, but I let's follow down this road anyway. Yeah.
Right.
You're making a good point.
Is this going to, Dak, you said it. You got him 8th, at probably the 8th best quarterback in the NFL, but yet he gets this top contract.
Yeah.
Are we going to see a correction at some point where teams, as important as quarterbacks are, I mean, they get paid so much more than everybody else that it can really skew your chances of winning? Do you think some team will say, look, we can't pay our quarterback this much money, even though you're up, even though that's the market, and that there'll be kind of a balancing out, or it's just going to continue to increase regardless of whether or not it really is good for your team?
Yeah. I think there's still going to be the fear that drives that. I mean, Washington kind of did that with Kirk Cousins, and they're still looking for somebody as good as Cousins, you know? It's hard to find. I think Dak Prescott, at least you hope that is going to keep ascending and can be in that top tier you're hoping for, right? I think what really sets you back is when you're paying a middle tier or lower guy like he's a great quarterback, right, and expecting different results. Like Minnesota's a good example of that. You know, Kirk Cousins, pretty good quarterback, but they're never going to win the championship. But they've been pretty good. You know, they've been okay. And I guess, is that what you're paying for, to be just pretty good? I mean,
Relevant,
it's easy for us to say don't do it, but do you want everybody to get fired when we don't have somebody and we're absolutely terrible at the position?
Right.
Like, you can say the best thing, obviously, we all know the best thing is to draft a good quarterback, have him on the rookie contract, and build your team. But we can't guess right for sure which one's going to be the great quarterback. Even last year, we're thinking, well, Tua is probably better than Herbert. Now everybody would take Herbert. You know what I mean? Wentz was going to be great. Now no one wants him.
I'm glad you brought up Tua, because I was going to ask you about where Tua fits in and Murray, because Murray came in. A lot of people, we had a guy on our show, Martin Weiss, who was saying he's going to be the MVP of this past year, and that didn't work out. And then Tua, they were already going to Fitzpatrick in big moments after he got the starting job. So there's questions there. Where do those two guys fit in?
Yeah, well, Kyler Murray debuted. I don't put any rookies in the poll, but last year in the quarterback tiers with the 50 coaches and evaluators voting, he came in at the very top of the third tier, like ahead of Kirk Cousins, Goff, Garoppolo, some guys who've won some games. So there was a lot of optimism on him. I think if people watched the second half of their season last year, I don't know he's going to go higher than that this year. I mean, he may come in the bottom of the second tier, but I don't know. I didn't feel as great second half of the year about him. On Tua, there's a couple things at work. Yeah, I think we didn't see, you know, that early specialness like we saw with Herbert. The other thing is, Brian Flores just doesn't care. I mean, he will cut Kyle Van Noy after 1 year. He'll have his defensive coordinator Patrick Graham get out of here, go to the Giants. We'll sit down Tua during the game and play Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, these are a little bit of unconventional leadership tactics, right? We'll fire our offensive coordinator or whoever. I mean, he just sort of does what he's going to do, and we'll see what that means for the handling of a quarterback, right? There's different thoughts
Mike,
on, okay, do we need to nurture him or what?
There's a report, or Chris Sims talking about Miami being all in on getting Deshaun Watson. Do you put much credence into that they could get Deshaun, or are they going to try to go with Tua? Or is it a matter of they want him, but Houston may not trade him?
Yeah, I'll say this. I don't think the presence of Tua there would be enough for them to say, count us out of getting somebody like Deshaun Watson. And I think that would be true for almost anybody. I mean, right? You've seen Deshaun Watson play. Now, do I think they're going to trade him? I mean, right now I don't. I mean, we can only really go off of what we see, right? And they haven't taken calls yet. Until that starts happening, they're not going to trade him. They may eventually, but there's really no test. There's no way for either side in that to prove they're serious, right? I mean, Deshaun Watson's not going to miss any game checks for a long time.
Until their games, right. Absolutely.
Right.
Until their games, there's no pressure on either side.
All right, that's Mike
although
Sando.
I think the draft, I would say the draft is one missed opportunity, though. If you were thinking about trading them and you wait till past the draft, I think there's fewer teams and the market's not quite as good if you're Houston. But I don't think that makes them trade him before then either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, that is interesting. If you're Houston and you're going to end up trading him, you probably should do it around the draft. All right, Mike Sando of The Athletic.
You, Mike.
Great stuff, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the knowledge.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Indeed. I want to get your opinion on, we had Mike Sando on from The Athletic. He's the creator of the QB tiers. Now, it's not his opinion, but his guys, you know, he talks to scouts and coaches and executives around the NFL to put together his quarterback tiers. And he said he was talking to someone in the league, I don't know if he said yesterday, but recently, about Dak Prescott after he signed the deal. And he said they were trying to figure out how many guys they could come up with in the league who were better than Dak. And he said they came up with 7. Where are you at on that? I mean, is that pretty accurate in your opinion?
I don't know. You know what? I might start counting quarterbacks. He might be right outside the top 10. I don't. Is he really that high?
Obviously you got the guys that are just no question head and shoulders above him. Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Tom Brady. And then I think you get in Lamar Jackson, right?
I was going to say, please don't leave him out. Right there, there's 6 right there.
That's
right?
6 right there.
Without
and
even
then maybe
really,
it becomes so you got Josh Allen.
I think Josh Allen is better than him right now.
He was certainly better last year, but I think when people I think Sando said he wasn't sure about it. I think that just goes to Dak has been good for 4 years, and Allen was really great for 1 year. He was emerging,
but he's
for
trending
the previous
upwards,
2 years.
Though.
Yes, yeah, he was. Look, his year last year was better than any year Dak has had. But I think the only way you could question whether or not he's ahead of Dak is to say, I want to see it for more. Because we've seen Carson Wentz, tremendous year. I mean, you would say with Carson Wentz, right? He had a year, his best year was better than anything Dak's done. But obviously right now you'd put Dak ahead of him. Jared Goff, same thing. Year they went to the Super Bowl, you're probably saying that's something, that was better than anything Dak's done. But I think people now may be getting cautious about can a guy keep it up. So after those 6, I mean, what will Justin Herbert become? He looks like he'll be better than Dak. Joe Burrow probably looks like he'll be better than Dak. Matt Stafford, where would you go on that, Rob? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, Matt Stafford to me is the middle of the pack. I'm looking at the QBR last year. And Chris, who would you ready? All right, you got the first 3 you already know, okay? QBR in the NFL 2020. Right. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Guess who was 4 and 5 will be surprising.
I bet you Ryan Tannehill is one.
Ryan Tannehill was 4th.
Right.
Yep.
5 QBR.
Yep.
Did you say Josh Allen?
No, he's
really?
3.
Fitzpatrick
was 5th. Drew Brees, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson was 8th. Tom Brady was 9th, and Baker Mayfield was 10th. That's in QBR.
See,
I don't see Dak's name, but I think it's because of the injury.
Yeah, he didn't have enough games.
He didn't have enough, so he's not listed in here. But those are your guys right there. And, of course, Chris, you would probably say Tannehill and Fitzpatrick. Now, Tannehill, I think, would be unfair to take him out because he's played more than just one good year. He's had a couple of good years in Tennessee,
but
right?
Do you think he's better than Dak? I agree. Like, he is we know what he is. I don't think he's better than Dak, though. I would take Dak. Now, you can see, I think what happens is you get, after those top 6, you get into some guys are going to have a better year here or there, and some guys are going, like Dak, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Ryan Tannehill. I mean, Matt Ryan, maybe you put him above, on there.
But
you got a bunch of guys that are kind of 1 year, one's going to be better. The next year, another guy's going to be better.
Let me give you this one. All right, are you surprised? Deshaun Watson, 12th on QBR. He's right above Herbert, Murray, Stafford, and Ryan. And you know what? It's not shocking to me, Chris, that Stafford and Ryan are right in the middle of the pack at 15 and 16. Don't you consider those 2 guys about the same kind of player?
Similar?
Yeah.
Well, at least Ryan did get a team to a Super Bowl. Now,
and he won an MVP.
Does.
And he won an MVP.
So I put him ahead of Stafford. But maybe Stafford will change that narrative, with the Rams. I mean, But right now I'll put Ryan ahead of him. But, Rob, I'm glad you brought up Deshaun Watson because there are reports out now that the Chicago Bears are going all in for either one of these guys, Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson.
They need a quarterback desperately, and they don't want to waste their fifth-ranked defense, right? And the coach and the general manager are on the hot seat in Chicago.
Right. Matt Nagy's like, look, ain't no 5-year plan.
Right. I won't be here when the 5-year plan. Right. I won't be here. Right.
Exactly. So I'm going to ask you, which one should they prioritize? They're probably going to go after both, but which one should they prioritize?
I would take I'm and this is no slight to Deshaun Watson, who's a fabulous quarterback and has a great potential and could one day win a Super Bowl or even two. I'll give him that because he is talented. But I would take Russell Wilson because of the experience. He's played in big games. He's won a Super Bowl. He was this close from winning back-to-back, right? And beating the Patriots and Tom Brady. So I would take Russell Wilson just because he's more proven. It doesn't mean that Deshaun Watson can't win with that fifth-ranked defense, but I would take Russell Wilson because we've seen what he was able to do, Chris, with a great defense. The Legion of Boom.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you, Rob. I'm with you. And like you, I like Deshaun Watson, but I don't even think it's a question. And I know Deshaun is younger. Deshaun, I think, is 25. Russell Wilson's 32. But look, Wilson takes care of his body. I think he has designs on – he may not be able to play as long as Tom Brady, but I bet he's got designs on going into his 40s.
And so it's about winning now, too, right? It's about winning now. It ain't about you say Deshaun's only 25 or 26. He's got time. Really? I mean, ask Dan Marino how much time he had after he got to the Super Bowl after his first time. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been back. I mean, it ain't automatic. So I don't know if you're waiting for somebody to progress or somebody who's been there, done that might be more attractive. Because if you're Matt Nagy, you don't have 3 years, Chris. You got to win. You go into the Super Bowl.
You better win this year
or next year, and that's it. If you don't get there.
Yeah, I would take Wilson, as I said. Look, he's just like you said, Rob. He's proven it, and not just the Super Bowl win, and then getting there again. But this dude has been to the playoffs 8 out of his 9 years, double-figure wins 8 out of his 9 years, and with not a lot of help once they broke up the Legion of Boom.
Right.
And Deshaun, kind of similar, Rob, in that he's had his years where he certainly hasn't had the best team around him, but he has not had the success that Russell Wilson has. I think they're similar, both high-character guys. Deshaun also, he's not injury-prone, but he did have an injury. Russell really hasn't had issues like that. And like you said it. We're trying to win a Super Bowl, and you saw what Russell Wilson could do with a great defense. With the top-notch defense, he could win you a Super Bowl. And that's what you're going for. And Rob, Russell Wilson wasn't as good those years. He was not as good in those first 2 years as he is now.
No, not at all. No, it was a totally different Russell Wilson. They relied on the running game, and every so often he needed to make a pass that they needed to keep the drive alive or a third down conversion or something. But no, he was not driving the bus.
Yeah, so I think it's Wilson. We both agree on that. And I think, too, Rob, Wilson is more gettable. It's going to be – so do you think at this point – I know you said you would trade Watson just because he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah,
but are you
just
starting
me.
to feel like they won't? I mean, we keep having guest after guest who seems to say they're not going to trade him.
No, it looks like that they're dug in and they're going to call his bluff. And the only alternative he would have is to retire and not play for 3 years. Is that right?
No. He could retire, Rob. But whenever he wanted to come back,
those 3 years kick back in?
Yeah, like it starts. So he's got 5 years left, I believe, on his contract. He signed a 4-year deal. Rob G, correct me. Is it 5 years or 4 years left? It was a 4-year deal, but it may have started.
Yeah, his extension hasn't kicked in yet.
Right.
So it hasn't even kicked in yet. Okay.
So he's on contract for 5 years with the Texans, Rob. if he retired, whenever he decided to come back, guess what? He would have to go to the Texans, and they would have his right for another 5 years.
Okay, so then he has no leverage. I mean, from
He
that
has
standpoint.
no leverage whatsoever.
Right.
But here's the only thing. And I do think that they're going to end up trading him, and even though they got all the leverage. Because, Rob, let's say nuclear option. Deshaun sits out and then retires. Okay, you're the Houston Texans. You can say, we showed him. We stood up to him and you ruined his career or whatever. But how does that help your football team? Now, granted, you get money back, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think at the end of the day, you're probably going to end up trading him for a king's ransom.
Right.
And I think that's what I would do. I mean, you're right. They could ruin this dude's career.
Basically.
But
I mean, I remember when Barry Sanders, I was there. In fact, Barry told me I was at the airport heading to Vegas, and I saw Barry at the airport. And he gave me a scoop. He said, I gave the Lions back their money. I'm like, what? What? So I had
this
to
was
write
after he had retired.
Yeah, and the Lions wanted their money back. He had, had a signing bonus or whatever, Chris. He had to give the money back. Calvin Johnson still has his panties in a bunch. He wants to.
Right.
He's mad that he had to give his money back. That's a part of the game. That's just
right.
It's how it's
if
set up.
You don't want to play and fulfill the duties. I mean,
I don't understand. I don't understand people who expect to keep the money. Do you?
No. I mean, look, if you get cut or most jobs, our job, you get fired, we would get money. You get paid. But if you don't want to do it, then you're not going to get the money.
You forfeit the money, right? If you quit.
Right. So they do have all the leverage, but I just think they're going to. And here's the other thing, Rob. At a certain point, it would become a PR negative for them. Like, I think right now, a lot of people are the Texans have a bad reputation anyway. But, people may side with the team over the player. But don't you think if they forced him to retire, I think the public sentiment would go heavily against the Texans.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
I think it would make them look like the bad guy.
I think for the most part it would, because they like him. He's done a lot of good things in Houston and whatnot. So I get that part, and it's easy to be in favor of a singular person rather than an establishment, right? What are the Texans?
Right.
It's not like personal, but they have a person. Because I'm wearing Deshaun Watson's, jersey, so I feel a part of him compared to a team.